Okay, cool. So um, there's a lot to Mahele. What we're going to focus on in this first part of the presentation is really how do you find useful information in the Mahele documents that would be helpful in understanding your Aina and understanding, not just the history of the area, but the different resources there that might have been cultivated there, the people that live there, and maybe even some level of structure and whatnot. So basically, in order to understand it during this presentation, first we're going to quickly recap land divisions. And by that, I mean geographical land divisions. Dominique covered really beautifully last week in her presentation. We'll talk a little bit of the effects of the Mahele, the event itself that happened in the mid-1800s, on people's koleana to aina, basically how people kind of term this as land ownership, or what was that relationship. For us, it's a lot more broad. So that's why I use the term koleana to aina. We're going to talk about the different types of documents that were filed, recorded during this event called the Mahele, and we'll talk about what kind of information you can find on them. And lastly, briefly talk about where to find these documents. The second presentation today, the second speaker of the day, will go into more detail as far as where to find those documents. So as always, if you have questions, please throw them into the chat, and then I believe Kylie is watching them. And when we get to the Q&A session, we'll be able to address all of those too. And who knows, if I see some really cool ones, I might just stop and address them on the way. I'll start blabbing on this first slide and continue on. Hope you're all doing good. I know a lot of us are tired. Hope you all have coffee. Have a sip right now. All right, so also disclaimer, Mahele can also be somewhat contentious. There's a lot of different opinions. So here's what I'm not going to talk about. Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about just the Mahele as it pertains to us doing any kind of research for Aina. I'm not going to talk about any different perspectives as far as whether it was something that was good or bad for Kanaka. That's a long and ongoing debate. That's not what this presentation is about. I'm not going to go into any detailed discussion on the legal process for filing claims. I will acknowledge, though, that being able to access and utilize these documents can help you today in perhaps trying to find out if you still have any kind of legitimate claim to Aina, which has the potential for putting your family back onto Aina, which then involves something else I'm not going to talk about, which is intricacies between figuring out clear title and title transfer. That's, again, a whole other thing. Probably see a whole bunch of videos from Kionusai on this too. And I'm not going to go into detailed discussion on any of the historical events that caused Mahele to happen or anything that happened as a result. So again, the focus of this presentation is more like, what was it? What are these documents? How can these documents help us to understand the Aina that we are appealing to? So, quick breakdown on land divisions. And this is more important because in understanding the geographical land divisions, it helps us to be able to access a lot of the Mahele documents easier, especially as they're organized in the LCA index. If you're not familiar with the LCA index, again, we'll talk about that in the next presentation. So first of all, from the largest, well, aside from the Paimoku, the archipelago, then you go down to the Mokupuni, or the island, right? Within that Mokupuni, you have the different moku, or districts as people call them on Oahu. You see the different moku represented here. And then typically the next subdivision of land within the moku is the Ahupua'a. And so in the moku of Ewa, as you see here in green on the south portion of Oahu, the Ahupua'a of Oiava is highlighted in a different color green. And so we're going from Mokupuni to Moku, Ahupua'a here. We're going to zoom in to this tiny little speck right here. So it's kind of like we're looking at the 10% zoom out of the picture right now, and I'm going to take you into like a 200% zoom. So hold on. There we go. Now we are in the southern portion of Waiawa, Makai, on the western area, and this is where we can see at least two different ili that are highlighted in blue. So ili are then another subdivision of the Ahupua'a, right? So the ili on the right here is Kuya Loko. On the left is Kuya Abaho, which is where we would have been meeting in person if not for things getting corona canceled, as I call it. So within the Ili, another subdivision is the Mo'o Aina. A lot of you have probably heard of this term before. These Mo'o Aina could be many different things, could be types of farm plots, lo'i, cultivated area. Sometimes they're called Mo'o Aina, sometimes they're just called Mo'o. Sometimes they have some other designator that can really clue you in as to its functionality. So you might see a place that's called a Mo'o Kalo. It's very likely that there are lo'i kalo that were within that Mo'o Kalo. Sometimes you have a Mo'o Loko, which might be a collection of different loko, whether that be freshwater, could be brackish water, as in the case of a lot of fish ponds, as you see here in the Makai area of Kuhia Waho, Kuhia Loko. There are other divisions that I've seen that need more investigation, like Pauku and whatnot, but typically, for the intents and purposes of this presentation, I typically stop at Mo'o Aina. So again, to recap, we go from the island, Mokupuni, down to Moku District, Ahupua'a. Here you see Waiawa, do a 200% zoom into one part of the Ahupua'a, and you can see different Ili, and then Mo'o Aina. Okay, and we continue. So the Mahele itself, often termed the Great Mahele, other scholars say it was really not so great at all. Again, not part of this discussion, but it happened in 1848, initiated by Kamehameha III, Mo'i Kauikeauli, one of the younger sons of Kamehameha Paia. So prior to 1848, basically all Aina in Hawaii was like owned, basically the kuleana that belonged to the Mo'i. Specifically Kamehameha I, right, which only happened after 1810-ish, yeah. Prior to that, there's other intricacies involved because of the different chiefdoms. Again, that's another long discussion. But in 1848, basically, you had this process of kind of formalizing, what I term formalizing kuleana to Aina, or some say privatizing it or making it possible for everyone to have some sort of land ownership. So I kind of hate using the term land ownership, but I figure it's an easier way to kind of understand what's happening here. So basically what Kauikeauli does is he's, the one who has everything in the Pai'aina. He gives up 2/3 of it so that everyone else can have some kind of claim, right? First division is he divides it up between actually like the different ali'inui, different konohiki. Then he also divides up another third to go to the aupuni, to the government. That land's to be used for government functions and whatnot. He retains the other third, yeah. So some people say this mimicked a kalai aina, a redistribution of land that usually occurred when one ali'inui or mo'i dies, another one takes their place. That again is another discussion. That's a much older practice. Something his brother Liho attempted but was unsuccessful at. And then following that, we had battle at Kuamo'o, another long discussion. Anyways, so coming back to 1848, after Aina's divided these three ways between the Mo'i, which become the crown lands, and the government lands, and then the other lands that go to the Ali'inui and the Konohiki. By the way, these two subsets of land here, these two divisions, the crown lands and the government lands, is what eventually becomes what people call the ceded lands. Of course, never legally ceded, right? It was never legally annexed. These lands could not be ceded, but that's the kind of lands that the airports are built on. A lot of DOE, a lot of lands that the U.S. military is occupying now. It came through those events after 1893, right, where then these were transferred over to the U.S. illegally. Basically, I'll take us back now to 1848 again. After these three divisions you see here, then other people could make claims to the Aina, different Maka'ainana and other people as well. So in some cases, these are referred to as the Kuleana Awards. There are a lot of different processes, and the Mahele was one way that they could get Aina, yeah? So just here more of an illustration. That first set of divisions between Kauikeauli, the Ali'inui, and the Konohiki, these are recorded in the Buke Mahele, or translated into English, the Mahele book. Highlighted here, you see, well, kind of hard to see, the text is kind of small, but that's where you see all Ili, Na ilia pau o waiava and ever go to Kama'amalu. Yeah, on the left side of the page is what Ho'ikeo really retains from each of these different aina that Kama'amalu then receives land from him from. Yeah. So it's in the book Mahele is also recorded transactions where land set aside for the Opuni are recorded. So on the right side, you have the different Opuni lands. These are different lands in Eva. Again, hard to see here when you look at the actual book Mahele, which there is a link to on our website. You can find it for yourself. Yeah. So Mo'i and Opuni that's recorded there. And so now, what about everyone else? How does everyone else get Aina? Yeah. So general process through the Mahele would be this. Say you're living on an Aina somewhere that would be the claimant. First, you make your claim. Yeah. So the claimant will file a claim stating that they live in such an area. In the case of Kuhiawaho, we might have a claimant by the name of Kako'o. Say, I live in the ili of Kuhiawaho. I received this from maybe my parents or someone else, and during this time, they might give you some rough boundaries. Usually will tell you what is on the borders of the property to different directions, whether it be another person, maybe it could be some kind of geographical feature, a predominant or prominent local, so on and so forth. These claims are called the registers, right? Two different types, native register and the foreign register. So that's the first document that's filed in this Mahele process. Holds a lot of info. We'll get more into that in a bit. Then after the claimant files a claim, the commission who reviews these claims hears testimony from others who will either testify in favor of or in opposition to the claimant's claim. So in other words, they're going to say like, oh yeah, they said they live over there. Yeah, I know, I've been their neighbor for how long? Actually, my lo'i is right next door to them. We've been there a long time. The family is from the area. They're in good relationship with the Konehiki or whatever other information they want to give. So these documents are called the testimonies. So that's the second document filed, right? Native register, native testimony, or foreign register, foreign testimony. As far as why they're called native or foreign, I'm honestly unclear. I've been doing this research for a couple of years now, super in depth. I'm a total Mahele Research dork. I've heard some people say that the native registers are called that because it's written in Olelo Hawaii, and the foreign register is called foreign register because it's written in English. Other people say, oh, the native register is, and native testimony are by those who actually live in the area, whereas foreign, maybe someone who is not from there. Honestly, I don't know how true any of that really is. You see a lot, fairly commonly, that a lot of times, yeah, the native documents are in Olelo Hawaii. Yeah, the foreign documents are in English, but I have seen other documents. I've seen foreign documents, well, foreign registers, foreign testimonies that are in Olelo Hawaii. There's a lot of times where the testimonies, you might see a native testimony and a foreign testimony that are both given by the same person, who oftentimes is a Kanaka. So then the argument of the foreign testimony being offered by someone who's not from the area, let alone some different kind of person, is a little skewed. I don't understand too much about that. Maybe someone out there does. There's a lot about the Mahele that we need to do a lot more studying on. So if any of this confuses you, then that's perfectly normal. If it doesn't, you might not be normal. You need to teach us. I'm sorry, trying to make jokes here. So native register, so you got registers, testimonies, right? Before this, you have the Mahele book, which is a division between the Mo'i, Opuni, and Yali'i. Okay. After the claimants have people testify on their behalf, then a survey has to be done of the Aina, yeah? All of these steps cost some money to file the documents for the survey. You got to pay the surveyor to map out the place and everything, right? So these information in the surveys can be found primarily in the survey boundaries and the survey notes. Other survey information can be found in the boundary commission notes, but a lot of the boundary commission notes are things that come later, usually around, I think, 1867 is when that started. And those are typically on the Ahupua'a scale, so a little bit bigger scale, yeah. So the government's trying to really clarify the boundaries of the Ahupua'a. The survey boundaries and survey notes pertain particularly to the individual claims by the claimants. So these two are purely to these documents, registers, and the testimonies. After the survey is completed, the boundary commission received all of those documents, then that's when they issue this document called a land commission award. Yeah, and so the claimant can pay for this land commission award. What this does is the LCA basically acknowledges the claimant's right to establish kuleana over the aina that they claimed and had surveyed. So it's kind of like a really in-depth process to making a reservation for the land that you're on, yeah? Then they don't actually retain the kuleana until the final document is issued, paid for, and whatnot. That's the royal patent, yeah? Once they have the royal patent in hand, that secures the kuleana of the claimant to their aina. And again, I use that term kuleana to aina because you'll hear people talking about royal patents as deeds. They're not always deeds. Sometimes they're leases. Sometimes there's something else. Sometimes a royal patent might not be issued to a single person, but you might have a hui of people who go in and try to get aina somewhere, yeah? So royal patent is not a deed. Royal patent is that formal acknowledgement of whatever kuleana is established as is defined in the royal patent. Again, that's another long discussion. So again, recapping types of Mahele documents, you got the Buke Mahele, registers, the testimonies, LCAs, land commission awards, not to be confused with land court applications, which you might see on maps as well. Totally different thing, in my opinion, possibly another attempt to obscure documents, especially by those from the provisional government, and afterwards in what people like to term as theft of land, yeah? So intentional confusion. But land commission awards, these are what are issued beginning in the mid-1800s. Some of these are issued later as well. The royal patents, right? Then the documents that are pili to the surveying of the land, that's your survey boundary, survey notes, boundary commission notes. And we continue. So now we're just gonna kind of look in depth a little bit more at these documents. So here's the Buke Mahele we looked at earlier. So again, this will tell you who got what within this first division. Right, on the right page is usually an ali'i. It'll tell you what they received. Useful information that you'll find here is how the land is classified, yeah? Like it'll say they received either an ahupua'a, in the case of Kumamalu and Waiava, she receives all of the ili in Waiava, which is a little different than receiving the entire ahupua'a. Some people might get larger or smaller portions of aina. Sometimes the aina might be designated as a kalana or an okana. More research needs to be done as far as like what that really means there too. But that's primarily the kind of useful information to find there is ownership, who gets what within this division, and designation of aina, yeah, copy. Okay, then next one, when the claimant files their claim, they put forward the native register, yeah. So this is a claim by a person named Kuhele Loa. You see highlighted in red. They typically will talk about what kind of resources they have on the aina. If there's any type of hale and whatnot, they'll usually talk about how they received the aina. You might have inoa aina in there as well. They might even tell you if those inoa are names for ili, if they're names for mo'o aina, maybe for even individual lo'ikalo or loco, and they'll tell you what kind of neighbors. You might find information on konohiki. So the register is really, really valuable. Yeah. Not every register moves forward in the process, right? The commission or others might find that this person didn't have any claim to the aina. Maybe they was trying to like grab aina that they weren't pili to, yeah? So it's possible sometimes they might be trying to issue some kind of inaccurate or false claim, yeah? But even if they're like lying about whether or not they belonged on the aina or not, they are probably not lying about what was on it, because remember, they're trying to lay claim to the aina, so you're going to be accurate in what you're describing. I don't want you to take that the wrong way and assume that like a lot of people filing the claims are liars. Just many different reasons people didn't get claims for whatever reason. Sometimes they get squeezed out by a konohiki or whatnot. Again, that's a longer discussion. But again, this is the register. That's the kind of information you can find on there. For our friend Kuhele Loa over here, unfortunately, this claim was not awarded. After the Registers filed, again, like we mentioned. Hopefully they got friends that will testify on their behalf, and these are the testimonies, native or foreign testimonies. You'll find a lot of similar types of information as in the registers. So different types of resources, hale, infrastructure like roads and whatnot, maybe other buildings like schools, churches, how they received the aina, neighbors, and also other information on Konohiki possibly. Sometimes you might even get useful dates where it's like, oh, they received this from the Konohiki whose name was Ke Konohiki, for instance, in the year 1823. Then you know that, oh, this person whose name is Ke Konohiki was the Konohiki in 1828, according to this document. The borders, as you see here, you got like these letters that are little acronyms. These tend to serve as directional. So they say on this side, represented by M, you can see this feature, it's kuai hoi, a mo'aina in this case. Word of caution, these directionals, these acronyms do not always refer to cardinal directions. Oftentimes they are place-based. So it could be an initial for adjacent moku. Yeah. So in this case, what I found for Waiaba, a lot of times when you see the letter H, that is not necessarily Hikina, but actually refers to Honolulu, which is roughly in the eastern direction, yeah? And the W, I found to stand for Waianae or Waialua, not necessarily west, yeah? Which again, wouldn't make sense. Is like, why would you have the W for west and then the H for Hikina? Why are we mixing up languages in the same document? Possible, but it really takes going through many, many, many of these documents and try to find the information and correlate it to understand what specifically these directions are, yeah? But look at me and figure it out. I'm blabbing too much. Next document, then after the survey is done, then the Land Commission Award is issued. Another reason these are really valuable is because you seen last week, we talked about mapping, we talked about different types of maps. When you look at a lot of registered maps and even a lot of the, what do you call them, the TMK maps, these LCAs are still on there. And so a lot of times when you jump into Mahele Research, a good starting point is looking at the maps first, yeah? And then you'll see what claimants are within the area that you're interested in. So LCAs give you a lot of the same information as the other documents, though note that the documents vary. You're not going to find exactly the same information on each of these, right? So you have the claimant's document. This is a description of the aina from the perspective of the claimant. A testimony is a description of the aina from the perspective of someone else who may or may not know the claimant. Then the LCA usually reflects the same aina from the perspective of the surveyor. So all of these might have different details that you can kind of put together as pieces of a larger puzzle. The royal patent, again, last document issued, seals the deal. Get it? Pala pala, sila, nui. Okay, sorry, Mahele joke. This typically, in most cases, almost reflects the LCA verbatim, but not always. Don't necessarily rely on that. So again, same kind of information. If you are doing any type of land title tracing and whatnot, other information that you want to pay attention to on all of these documents are the dates that they're issued. So some little helpful tips there. But yeah. Then of course, survey boundaries and notes. These, as you see here, the survey notes gives you the information on how the surveyor did the surveying. Measurements are in these things called chains. It's a unit of measurement that nobody really uses anymore. But there are ways to convert that. Sometimes you see other information, like you see Konohiki is mentioned. Konohiki has a kula along one border of this property. Yeah. So again, just more information. And sometimes these vary from other documents. So taking the time to really look in great detail at each of these documents will give you a whole bunch of information that if you are diligent enough, you can start piecing these together and get a really, really cool picture of what that aina looked like. Then the Boundary Commission notes here, as you see, these were issued, I believe, starting around 1860s. I think that was a Hawaii government survey. If Dominique's on now too, she can correct me on that if I'm inaccurate on the historical context. But these are found in the we say archives. Typically gives you a description of the ahupua'a. They range from being super detailed, talking about all different types of vegetation, resources cultivated in there, to some of them are not as detailed. Yeah. Okay. That's a lot about documents. How is everyone doing so far? You good? Cool. All right. So we're almost to the end of this presentation before we take a break and then the next presenter takes over. So here's just a few helpful terms that might be helpful when you are looking at these documents. And especially if you're not as familiar with Olelo Hawaii, one challenge to reading these documents is that a lot of them are recorded in Olelo Hawaii. On top of that, they're handwritten in script, right? So if you don't know how to read script, first of all, that's challenging. If you don't know Olelo Hawaii, that's another challenge. And then hopefully the copy of the document that you have is easy to read too. So have patience, everyone, have patience. You can do this. As you are doing this, some key terms here for agriculture that'll key you in. Of course, lo'i kalo will tell you if there's kalo being cultivated. Kula can be areas for cultivation or just lands that are possible for cultivation. Pa'aina, you got kihapai and ko'ele. Ko'alima, as you see to the right, and ko'ele are cultivated plots that have some kind of chiefly association. As far as ponds or aquaculture goes, then you got some terms like loko. Loko doesn't always mean lake. It's always translated as lake, right? But it could be a fish pond. It could be a freshwater pond. Who knows? You got lokoi'a. And again, another one that we overlook is that term pu'uone, which in Waiawa seems to be the overwhelming number of fish ponds, as I mentioned before. 3 lokoi'a have been talked about in the ahupua'a of Waiawa. Those are the kuapa. I found like 17 more in 3 ili. There's 17 ili in this ahupua'a. There's probably choke fish that was over there. We gotta check them out. Then what I call infrastructure, different ala, so different kind of pathways, ala loa, ala hele, ala kahiko, like older roads. You might see ala upuni, which can be good clues for us, especially when you're doing research in places like Waiawa or throughout Ewa. Then ala upuni, or the government road, typically refers to what is now Kamehameha Highway. So if you're trying to figure out where something is in relation to the current landscape today, as we know it, that's really helpful, yeah? And of course, different hale of whatever type, different kula, churches, so on and so forth. Where to find them? Basically, all of these are in the Hawaii State Archives. When the world is healthier, that's your best bet of trying to find them. You can find some related documents in the Bureau of Conveyances. There's some stuff in Hamilton Library as well. Right now, here's our online databases that we can search. So Awakonehiki has a whole bunch of different things. Papakilo as well. So it's Kipuka and Waihona Aina. And so the next presentation, the next speaker, I understand, will dive deeper into these resources and how to find those. But yeah, that concludes the first part of the Mahele presentation. And any kind of overview there. Again, if it's a lot of information, we have a lot more to throw at you too. If you feel confused, if you feel lost about it, don't fret. Don't worry about that at all. We have additional materials to kokua you. And just remember, like, understanding this stuff, it takes a lot of time. And the Mahele is nuts. People who really study the Mahele still don't understand the Mahele, right? I probably spent at least 6 years myself diving deep into this just from this perspective and trying to understand or trying to look at Mahele documents for understanding Aina and looking at them from Aina, from Hawaii Island out to Kauai. And there's still so much to learn. So we're trying to cram all of that into basically 2 half-hour sessions. So if anything seems confusing for you, it's perfectly fine. It means you're a normal person. But yeah, otherwise, I guess we're about ready for a break here.
Yeah, I think Kipo'o, before we go into tea, you okay?
Sorry, what?
Can you hear me okay? It sounds choppy on my end.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try this one.
Sounds good to me.
What about now? Is that better? Okay, so of course, wanting to mahalo Kepo'o first for this wonderful presentation. It's definitely something that put myself on track. I watched this presentation before and it inspired me, of course, to do my own research for my own AINA, which I know everybody is super excited to do as well. And really wanting to explain to you guys how helpful it was to us. Like, what information are we really getting from Mahele documents, right? How is it helping us on AINA every day or within our restoration process? And for us, it's, of course, learning the Kanaka that was there, right? We know these Ohanas now. We know the names of the people that were there. If I think about even bringing in Dom's lecture, right? So thinking about maps. Yeah, so Mahele documents is like the very first snapshot that we get of AINA, and it's only written, yeah? And then in 1887 is when we get to actually see what is growing on land. And so in the 1850s, it was all lo'i, it was all local. There were mo'o AINA, right? From these documents that we have to look really closely, and we have to read script on our computers, and we learned that there were at least like 18 ohana that were living at Kuhiawaho at one time. Yeah, there were about 6 or 7 local vai that were producing fish for these ohana. Yeah, there were 8 mo'o aina. So we're learning where all of these structures were as this guide to our restoration process on how it's supposed to be, how it worked, because there's such a long process of erasure that happened to our place, which I know happened everywhere else, right? So this is like the only tool and snapshot that we really have of what's going on, or what it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like. So I hope that you guys are gonna find all of your little momies. I like to call it momies just because I'm from Pu'uloa. So all of those little things that you find within your own research, and knowing that it's going to be really helpful for everyone here. So mahalo Kepo'o, great job. We're going to roll in to a break right now, and then we'll have Kepo'o. He'll talk about exactly where to find these resources, right? How do we start this process? So I think Ginger, do you have another song for us today?
If not, I've got one. Also, I just got into the chat again too. Awesome Mahele jokes, everyone. Like Mahele, running mother. I like to consider myself one of the kings of like lame jokes and corny jokes. I'm not calling the joke name, but definitely appreciate that humor. Mahalo everybody for waking up with me.
Okay, La'a says start.
Okay.
Take it away.
All right, so you go in here too. So I'll go ahead and introduce the next speaker then. So the next person I've been working with probably for a longer period of time than anyone else that I know. So with that being said, go ahead and introduce Kepo'o, everybody. Hey, hello, I'm Kepo'o. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on with the second portion of the presentation. Mahalo e Kepo'o for introducing me. And let's go ahead and share this screen here. Okay, so, oh, wait. Am I sharing the screen? I'm not sharing the screen, right? All right. Sorry, not as good as this as the other Kepo'o. All right, how's about that? Can everyone see the screen okay? Awesome. Okay, so hope you all had a great break. I'll try to go through this kind of quickly, but hopefully thoroughly as well. There's a lot more information in here. And so this is going to be more of a step-by-step process for how do you like even go about finding any of these documents that we just talked about, right? And so both of these hopefully will help you with the different parts of the ha'abina. Again, reminders for the ha'abina. These are not for us to judge you, though we're totally judging you. I'm kidding, we're not. It's really, hopefully aimed at being a tool that will be useful to you and learning and getting familiar with how to do all these different skills, yeah. And then whenever you're able to submit them to us, that just gives us the opportunity to give you more commentary, feedback, see if there's any ways that we can cocoa you to get more ma'a to all of this if you are not already. So where was our coffee? Okay. Oh yeah, is this recording too? Okay, cool. So again, this is a step-by-step, but kind of a brief step-by-step. So especially with this one, if you do get lost, again, don't freak out. It's the like theme of today's presentations, don't freak out. We have an in-depth outline on the website to walk you through the step-by-step parts. And then I was hoping to have other videos created for you by today, but wasn't able to do that yet. But we will be creating and uploading videos to walk through each process of how to download every single doc. So that being said, I think I have an overview slide. Yeah, there it is. So basically, I'm going to start by going over an overview of the index of awards, or what I call the LCA index, yeah. And then we're going to go into how to gather all of these different documents. This will eventually make sense, I promise you. Well, no, I'm not going to make promises, but eventually it will. Okay, so this index you'll find on the website as well. So this is basically your massive table of contents to finding all of the LCAs, yeah? And the reason why we're starting with the LCAs, if you remember from the last presentation, the first document that goes down in this Mahele process is the Mahele book, right? Then the registers, then the testimonies, then the LCAs. As far as trying to track down any of these documents, this is just my own personal procedure, by the way, so everyone's got their own ways to do this, but I find this to be the easiest way because when you start with the LCAs, it'll give you a lot of the information that you need to find all of the other documents because a lot of them are typically tied to that LCA number, yeah? So to be effective at this, we first need to understand this index, the LCA index, yeah? There is no table of contents in this LCA index. The closest thing you have is a general index of content at the end of the index of awards. Anyone confused yet? But here's a basic breakdown that I put together that should be really helpful. And this is broken down in even more detail on the document that we have for you online, yeah? So the first like 84 pages are what we call the front matter. So a lot of information, you have information on the Board of Commissions to quiet land titles, right? The commission that hears all these claims. Different breakdowns on INA. There is information in there as far as how land was divided roughly in that first division as recorded in the book in Mahele. It might not necessarily be very thorough though. A whole bunch of other information. It's definitely worth reading. But what we're concerned with primarily for the intents of this workshop are these next two sections, which is the alphabetical by awardee arrangement of the LCAs and the alphabetical by land arrangement of the LCAs. Yeah? As you see, the rest of this will tell you what follows in this document. Yeah. So after that, you got the same LCAs arranged by number, then arranged by number according to the raw patent. At the end is what they term the handy tables. These are basically conversion tables, as you mentioned. The surveyors did their measurements in units of measurements called like chains, rods, and roods. And like I said, nobody uses that anymore. So if you want to know what that means in like feet or meters, then you can find that in the handy tables, yeah. Then you have a general index at the back of this too. I highly recommend using the one that we've provided to you. It's a lot more thorough. So even these sections like alphabetical by awardee and by land, it will tell you in our document what page number these claims start for different islands. So like, where's the Hawaii Island claims? Where's the Maui Island claims? Kauai, so on and so forth. So hopefully that can save you some time when you're doing this research, yeah. Okay, now that we've talked about the index roughly, we'll get into how to find these things. So as I mentioned, this is my process. I usually start with the LCA index in the alphabetical by land section. So this section is broken up first by mukupuni, by the island, right? So we'll go back to our land divisions again, yeah? Then within each moku puni, it's broken down by the moku. In this case, you can see on the right-hand side of this page that this comes from the island of Oahu, moku puni of Oahu, moku of Ewa, yeah? Then it's alphabetical by ahupua'a within those moku. So here at the top, you see Waiawa, yeah? Then it's further categorized, again, alphabetically by land. On the left-hand side, these are different ili within Waiawa. So this is where I started because especially most times I'm doing research from a place-based perspective. So I might want to go in and try and find claims like, where's all the LCA claims for Kuhiawaho in Waiawa? This is how you start. Right here you see, there's 3 claims for Kuhiawaho in Waiawa. You see the claimant name or the awardee name next to that. In this case, you see the award for Kako'o highlighted, yeah. Under that, the LCA number. In this case, there are 2 LCA numbers awarded for the same claim. Vital information here is the book number. So this is in what you call the LCA book, because what this page that we're looking at right now, this is not the Land Commission Award, right? This is just information that tells us how to find the Land Commission Award. This particular Land Commission Award for Kako'o is found in LCA Book 5 on page 3. So this is all information that you'll want to log down. I recommend doing it in a spreadsheet. We provided a template spreadsheet for you on the website as well that you can use for not just Ha'awina, but really for your own records when you're doing your own research on Aina. I might look kind of weird because I'm like looking at the side of the screen where I can see your faces in like the little chat and I realize it's not the camera. So Kalamai, it looks weird when I'm trying to talk to you. Okay. Next, here you have the Royal Patent numbers. Also important to log down, right? And then what Royal Patent book number and page number there. You'll also see the size of the combined award. In this case, 0.43 acres. So again, definitely recommend recording all of this information. There's a moku puni name, the moku, the ahupua'a, the ili, the awardee name, definitely. All these info for the LCA number, book number, page number. Can you see the bottom of my site, or do you see like the controls kind of blocking the bottom part of the site? Okay, mahele peleke. Let me see. How's that? That's like the same thing. Try for this thing. Anyways, what's under the Royal Patent info, you'll have the slides available too. What's being blocked right now just says the Royal Patent number and the page number. Yeah. So that step 1, alphabetical by land. If you're looking for the AINA specifically, I recommend recording this information for every claimant in the AINA that you're looking at. Yeah. After you have that logged, the second step I usually do is now from the alphabetical by land section, I'll go to the alphabetical by awardee section. So you would assume that the information in each section would be the same, but it's not, because these are put together by people. People are fallible, right? They make mistakes. As you see here too, the ili name for Kuhiawaho is, there's a typo, right? Kahiawaho. Who knows? Maybe that's another spelling. I don't know. But there's inconsistencies, right? So to be thorough, I usually check both sections. So the alphabetical by awardee is arranged kind of similarly. Same general breakdown, starts off by the moku puni or the island, right? Then the moku. And then the difference between the awardee section versus the land is that within the moku, then it's just arranged alphabetically by all the awardee names. So all of the awardees in EVA just arranged alphabetically. Then the location you're going to see on the right-hand side over here. So this part can be tedious. Then basically what I'll do is I'll start at the very beginning of the section for that moku, and I'll look at every single page for that moku and check this section where it says location and see if there's any other claims that come up for the area that I'm looking for. Right? So you have the same information, just recorded in a different order as the other screen. So claimant name, LCA number, book number, page number, same thing for the Royal Patent. The size of the AINA awarded, and maybe how many parcels, how many apana. Yeah. So that's your step 2, alphabetical by awardee. All right. Again, this page is just reiterating what information you should be recording in your log, just to be sure you're thorough. And of course, as you look at your log, then you'll see if you already recorded it. So then, no need to record the same thing twice. So where you find these, basically the physical repository is going to be in the Hawaii State Archives. There are online repositories. I would caution you against relying too much on them. Again, any database is limited by what is uploaded to the database. Yeah. So just because it's not on the database, it doesn't mean that the document doesn't exist. It just means it might not be on there. How you can verify that is by being thorough in these first two steps, by going through the LCA index manually yourself and track down whatever awards that you can find. Yeah. So we will go through so some online databases that you see here: Awakonahiki, Papakilo, and Kipuka. Kipuka makes things very easy. I'm going to walk you through the hard way. Not the hard way, but it's a little bit closer to the old school way through the Awakonahiki website, so that you can be a little bit more equipped to do this kind of work. So as we mentioned in the index, the LCAs are recorded in different books, right? LCA books. And they're on a certain page number within those books. You can find the LCA books on the Awakonahiki website. So when you go to the website, and don't worry, the next screen will show the website and how to access them. Yeah? After you download the book, check the book for the appropriate page number for the LCA you're searching for, and then you'll be able to find your LCA. Okay. So, loading. Kalamai. As we referred to something else with this too. Okay, so we're waiting for that screen to load. Kalamai, everybody. How's everybody so far? But this is the thickest part of this presentation, though. We still have a lot more to go. I'm trying to rush it here. This is why I try not to use Google Slides too much. All this internet connection really like you. Maybe if I try to pull it out of presenter mode. Okay, let's try this again. Maybe the picture is too thick, that's why. Let's see. Okay, I see the loading bar moving. There's hope. In the meantime, you get my narration of what's happening. Oh my gosh. I kind of do want to wait for this to load though, because the pictures will definitely make things a lot more helpful in understanding how to do this. Oh boy. Awkward mid-presentation, loading screen silence. Let me check out the chat. Oh, I'm loving this chat. Okay, well, you know, this is taking a long time.
Didn't you upload the slideshow to the website?
It's on the website too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of presenter mode right now. We're just going to look at it in this view. It's much smaller. Okay, shoot, we're going to go super manual here then. Hold on real quick. Let me pull up my folder with the pictures I downloaded here. Okay, first one is that.
You want to stop sharing and then I can share the presentation on my screen?
Sure.
Okay, let's try that.
Let's try that. Because that would definitely be much smoother. Okay. Mahalo. All right, everyone can see that? Okay, so when you go to Awakonahiki, there's different ways to enter into the website. Basically, I just recommend the first page you open up is going to say new to Awakonahiki or expert. If you're not familiar with the website, definitely take the time to learn, go through the tutorials and whatnot. When you're done, just jump right into it. You can click that expert button. This is a page you'll get to. And then on the right tab, you mouse over where it says LCA index and search. And then you'll have this drop-down menu that comes up. And these are where you can access the different LCA books. These are the ones referred to in that index, yeah. So when you click on that, then you can either view the book online or download it. I noticed when I tried checking the website, there's some issues with viewing them online, but the PDFs are available to download. And if you are going to get into this research kind of heavily, I recommend just downloading them all anyways, if you have space on your computer, yeah? So download the book, go to the page number that was referenced in the index, and then you should be able to find your claim. Another thing I want to point out is, remember that when you are looking at the PDF, that the page number of the PDF doesn't always match the actual page number of the document, yeah? So just pay close attention to the numbers that are written on the documents in the corners, which might be a little hard to decipher sometimes, but those will be the page numbers that you're looking for to find your king. And then, oh, I can control the screen. Let's see, can I click here? Let's see. Actually, La, can you do the next slide? It says like, hey, La, okay, can you pick the next one, or we got more issues going on here? Which is unfortunate. This is a very thick presentation, so there's a lot of slides. It says I can control the screen, but I'm not able to actually click anything or move anything. But
Yeah, I can control access, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Let me know. I can just click through it. Just tell me.
All right. Yeah, maybe if you can just click on the next one, and then. Oh, technical difficulties. Or like, yeah, maybe if you can try putting it into presentation mode, and then I'll see if I can control the screen that way. Sorry, everybody. Okay, let me see if I can. All right, I think I'm going to need you to, or are we both trying to do this? Is that what's going on? I'm going to try to control the screen here. Oh, we're going all over the place. Okay, so basically, that's, go to Awakoniki, you can download the LCA books, you can find the LCAs that way, and you can either view them within the book. If you have Adobe Acrobat, you can extract the pages into individual documents, and then you can save those, yeah. Let me see if I can control the screen here again. Yeah, okay, I don't do anything. Let's see if this works.
Lilia's suggesting that maybe we just use it off of the site. It would be easier. So go onto the Kuleapa'a website, I guess what Ginger was saying earlier to how we uploaded it there. And then you can scroll through it because it's all uploaded onto the site already.
All right, let's try that then.
Sorry, guys.
Long need for your patience. Okay, I'll try and pull it up then, and I'll let you know when I've got it. So maybe we should have taken the break at a different point, huh? Okay. Just a moment, everyone, while I log in here.
I have it up. You want me to share my screen and see if we can?
You see, I just pulled it up. You see, I'll try sharing screen and see how this works here. All right, can you all see the screen here?
Yeah.
All right. Ooh, scrolling down, trying to find, oh, there's the last presenter's stuff. Okay. All right. Let me minimize this thing. All right. Cool, this is gonna work. So let's get back here. Okay, so here is Awakonahiki screenshot, right? Again, mouse over LCA index, there's the books, that's how you should be able to find it. And then this is what Land Commission Award document looks like, yeah. So that's your LCAs. If you choose to save your LCAs, I highly recommend being diligent in how you organize your file folders and the file names. So here you'll see my recommendations for how to save and name a file for an LCA. So you can go ahead and review this later on to get more details. I'll go over it briefly here. I have these listed throughout for every single document, but as you see, basic format that I follow is the awardee name, followed by the type of document, in acronyms, LCA, and then the LCA number, in this case, for the LCA for Kako'o. As we saw, there are two different LCAs awarded, LCA numbers for Kako'o, so both of those are there. Then the book number and the page number where the LCAs found, it's right there. So that's LCAs. So now we're going to look into how to find information from the Buke Mahele. On this slide, you'll see, again, general overview to the contents of this book. This one does have a table of contents, which primarily outlines pages that you'll find the exchange between the mo'i and the li'i, mo'i and the opuni. And then there's another index at the end, which kind of generally reflects the table of contents at the beginning. So to start with the Buke Mahele, we go back to the LCA index. As you mentioned briefly earlier, in that front matter area where you have what you call, there's some information on aina that was exchanged has been recorded in the Buke Mahele. From a place-based standpoint, I find this process to work a little smoother for me, where I'll go again to the alphabetical by land section, right? And then I'm going to look through this last part of the column under area, and note that a lot of these awards are like certain size acres, like 3.91 acres, 0.43. But in this case, there's this AHP that stands for Ahupua'a. So typically, that's your indicator that whoever got this award probably received this aina during the that first distribution during the Mahele, in this case, Kamamalu. So now that we have a name, I'll look for this name, Kamamalu, in the Mahele book. Yeah. So in the table of contents or in the indexes where you want to search, look for that person's name. In this case, Kamamalu appears at the very top of the index on page 2. So then I'll go to page 2 of the Buke Mahele and we'll find it there. As you mentioned, on each of these, it's a 2-page deal. When you're looking at the Buke Mahele, it's a complete record where on the left side, whatever went to, or whatever commandment on the third routine, whatever the mo'i routine, on the right side is whatever was transferred to the other entity or person. In this case, all the Ilia Waiaba for Kamamalu. Again, more recommendations on file naming. So you can go ahead and review that slide again later if you want more info on that. I'm going to kind of move ahead, especially with the technological delays. So for the Buke Mahele, you'd find this in the Hawaii State Archives. You can also find it on the Hawaii State Archives website. We have a link to it on our website as well, and it's also available on these other websites too. So next, testimonies, native and foreign. Searching for these is a little trickier. We're still working on, I believe there may be an index coming forward at some point. How I've typically done this research before is a real old school method. It sounds a little obscure or Indiana Jones-like. You find the mysterious brown book. So call it the brown book. These are physical copies of the LCA index, as you'll find them at the Hawaii State Archives and at the Hawaiian Pacific Collection at Hamilton Library at UH Manoa. And so the difference, this copy compared to the digital one, is that in these copies, it seems that at some point, somebody took it upon themselves to go in and write in by hand the book numbers and page numbers for the testimonies and the registers next to the LCAs, the LCA information in that index. That's honestly been the most thorough way for me to kind of search these for these things. The testimonies you'll find at Hawaii State Archives, or you will find them online at these websites. So we'll walk through another way to try and search for these, especially right now. We can't go into maybe Hamilton Library or the archives, especially if you're not on Oahu, right? So we'll go back to Abakonahiki website. And to start, you'll hover over the Hawaii Land Documents tab there, scroll down to HSHK Knowledge Well, click on that. That's going to bring you to this page. And then you're going to see the State Investors Native and Foreign Testimonies. Once you click on that, on the next page, don't freak out again, right? Rule number 1, Mahele Research, don't freak out. I love the rule number 2 on there, by the way, everyone. So do an advanced search, which basically you're going to open up 2 fields, and you're going to set the search parameters. 1 to awardee name, 1 to claim number, insert the proper information. What that's going to look like is this. So basically, when you get to that page, up here is where you would click on advanced search. You will typically get 1 row of these search bars, right? I would then click this one for add another field, as I've done in this case. 1 field, click the drop-down menu, choose awardee name, and the other one, the claim number. And then you put in the awardee name and the claim number for the one you're searching for. Yeah. And then the search results should give you roughly the book number and the page number for the testimony that you're searching for. So there's a kind of a pattern going on here, right? LCAs, you have an index, there's a book number and a page number that you're going to find the LCAs on. In this case, you see for Kako'o, let's say foreign testimony is on, in foreign testimony, book 9, page 89, right? Possibly book 90. Maybe it's in the native testimony book, 9 to 1. Again, this is a process that needs to be refined better. My recommendation is search for the native testimony books and the foreign testimony books. Check all of these page numbers in both books. Again, this is tedious work, but it's worth it. So here's how, now if you're looking for the native testimony books and the foreign testimony books, here's some written instructions on how to find it. I'm going to blitz past that one for now and just get to a more useful visual. So on the Abakonahiki website, again, hover over that Hawaii Land Documents area, you see the drop-down menu, foreign testimonies and native testimonies pop up. When you mouse over those, you get another drop-down menu, and then here are your books, right? Look for the one that you're searching for. In this case, for Kako'o, we're looking for foreign testimony book 9. Within that book, we would go through the pages, try to find page 89, which might not be page 89 of the PDF. This is going to take some time, like, scrolling up and down until you find them. And then this is basically what a foreign testimony looks like. There are multiple recorded in succession. So you see Kako'o's foreign testimony begins at the bottom of this page. This is page 89, finishes on the end of page 90. Then another foreign testimony for a different claimant continues there, another one there. All right. So that's foreign testimonies. Hope you're doing good over there. We're getting close to the end of this part. Hopefully we'll have some time for questions for you. So registers are a little tougher to find. Again, the way I would typically go about this is finding the magical brown book, physical copy. These registers you'll find at the Hawaii State Archives. Again, we're going to look at different repositories that you can access online. What I found to be the most useful has been using the Papakilo database to search for different registers. So let's go through that process. When you go to the Papakilo website, you can start by clicking on, there's 2 different ways to enter into this, right? So here's one way. Click search by collection at the top. That will bring up a menu on the side here of different collections. Select the Mahele Aina Index collection, and that will get you to the place we want to search. Or from the homepage, you can just scroll down a little bit more. It's that big blue banner that says search Mahele records, and that'll get you to the same place. All right. So let me check on chat here if anyone's trying to talk to me at all. No, never mind. So after you click on that, it'll take you to this screen, brings up a search bar, right? And what I recommend is you can use that search bar to search for the name of your claimant. You can search for all kinds, the name of the AINA, so on and so forth. If you're looking for the specific register pertaining to the LCA that you're searching for, I recommend using the LCA number. A couple of different reasons for that. If you search the claimant name, that claimant or the awardee those terms I'm using interchangeably here, claimant and awardee, that person may have been awarded INA in different places. They might have received INA in Waiava. They also might have received INA in not just Waiava on Oahu, but maybe Waiava on Hawaii. Or maybe they also got other INA on Hawaii Island, all under the same name. Maybe there's different claimants with the same name that's in different places. So searching the claimant name can maybe be too broad of a search when you're doing this. So using the LCA numbers is a really good way to narrow this down. So when you're doing it on Papakilo, put that in the Mahele INA index searching features thingy. Then you put the LCA number in the search box, click search, and then you should get a set of results that will show you a whole bunch of different documents here. So in this case, you see you need a register pop-up for Kako'o, where the easiest way I recommend accessing that document is clicking on that little icon over there that looks like a document. And then you'll get to this page, scroll down, you see a thumbnail, click on that one, it should open up the register, yeah. Now, just want to note two other limitations that you see with these databases. No way trying to badmouth the databases. It's really impressive the amount of information that is on there. So mahalo again, Pulama, Isaac, Idam, all of you who have been working on these databases, I'm Kale too. When you look at this document, you might find that it may look incomplete. Like maybe you're trying to find an example here. Do I have any? I'm screen sharing, right? This is not really the document that I was looking for, but basically you might see where, like in this case, there were for Kako'o, this is a native testimony, though, starts at the top, it finishes over here. You have the complete testimony, yeah. At the bottom here, you have another claimant. It's hard to read right now, so I'm not even going to attempt to, so I will mispronounce the name. But you can tell this document begins at the bottom of this page, but it doesn't end. So when you're looking at this thing, Papakilo, make sure you take the time to look at it and see if it's complete. If it's not, you might have to go backwards or forwards, so either the previous document or the next document, to make sure you get the complete record. It might extend across multiple pages. It's basically what I'm getting at here. And again, I will be making videos to explain this all and walk you through visually in more detail, and we'll have those available for you to access. Yeah, this is just a quick, dirty overview. And so again, file naming, that's recommendations there. Now, royal patents. Okay, these you'll find at Hawaii State Archives. These are going to be on microfilm. You can also find the library. There's a limited number there on microfilm. Many of these are older royal patents, meaning more recent. And then best database online to access these that I found is on Kipuka database. So we're going to walk you through Kipuka again. When you get onto Kipuka, you got this box over here. Zach did a beautiful job of walking us through this last week. Mahalo. So I'd start by clicking this tab for land awards. And again, you use the LCA number to search. Pop that into your search box over here, right? Once you hit enter, you'll get your search results that pop up looking like this. And so if you see results that match what you're looking for, in this case here is Kako'o, there's the LCA numbers 1604 and 9368. What I recommend is then clicking for either of these records on this icon in the middle. That icon is called the details icon. That will take you to this next page where you can find all these different kinds of wonderful info. I like to click on that thing right there that says links to other records. Click that up, you'll see a bunch of different documents here, right? Some of the documents that we were talking about earlier. If you scroll down, that's where you will see the royal patent document if it has been uploaded to Kipuka database, yeah? So there's a way to access the royal patent online through Kipuka. Here again are recommended formats for naming the file. And last one, survey boundaries and survey notes. Look at all that text. Don't be intimidated by all this text instructions for how to search it. Basically, all this site is saying is everything we just did for the royal patents, do the same thing, right? Go through the same process. And going to end up on that same page with all of these documents, and you're going to find those on that same list. So when you're looking for the royal patent, you can really just go ahead and collect these other ones too at the same time. And so again, the reason I didn't take you directly to Kipuka to look for all these documents is because you might find instances where you might not have the complete documents up there. I found some cases where there were maybe incomplete native registers on the website. Sorry, Pulam, I should have informed you about that. Yeah, everyone, heads up, if you find stuff missing on there, be good to contact. Maybe, I don't know, Pulam or Zach, they can let us know who would be the more appropriate one to contact, and that way they're aware of it if they aren't already. But yeah, basically we went through all these other steps so that you can hopefully be better equipped to do this research on your own without relying on any database. And then the databases will just become even more useful to you because you'll have a better understanding of how to do all this kind of stuff, yeah. So physical repositories for the survey boundaries and survey notes, you can find these at the Hawaii State Archives. It's in the government collection under the, oh sorry, this is different. This is the Boundary Commission notes. This is actually the last one. So not all of these are available online. Most of them, you got to go into the archives for it. It's in government collection, Commission on Boundaries, but they have made some of these available online on their website. So if you go to the Hawaii State Archives website, you can click on digital collections. Again, follow this path, the government collection, Commission on Boundaries, and some of the Boundary Commission notes are there, I think, for some areas of Hawaii Island. I think maybe a little bit of Maui and some of Oahu as well. So yeah, coming back to rule number 1, don't freak out, everyone. Just don't do it. Try not to. It's not helpful. Definitely take advantage of the resources that we have on our website. What's probably going to be of the most help to you right now are going to be these presentations by both of the speakers. Also the PDF with the detailed outline of step-by-step procedures for gathering the documents. There will be videos coming soon. Hopefully I can start recording and uploading those for you today. And then that'll be broken up by each document. We'll go into even more detail than I've just gone over right now, yeah. Don't forget the template for recording your information and schedule office hours with us for next week. And we can talk story with you if you have more questions, yeah. Don't be afraid, it's free. We're here to help. Like I said, if any of this is confusing to you, if it doesn't make sense, that's fine. No shame, please, no shame in seeking the help here. One thing I used to tell a lot of students when I used to tutor for 4 years was that I realized a lot of them were kind of ashamed to seek help because they felt like, oh, maybe they weren't smart. Maybe they didn't know anything. So then I asked them like, oh, wait, you mean there's things you don't know? You don't know everything? Of course we don't know everything. If we knew everything, we wouldn't have any need for schools, any need for anything else, and life would probably be really freaking boring. So there's no shame in not knowing what you don't know, and there's no shame in seeking help to understand what you don't know, because otherwise you're not going to understand it. And personally, I love this stuff. I love working out on it. I love talking about it. So schedule the office hours with us, please do. And I think I went a lot longer than I anticipated, but yeah, kalamai. If the other speaker wasn't so long-winded, then maybe this would have been a lot quicker, but open it up for some, Yeah, I'll stop sharing screen.
The first question that we have is, are any of the native testimonies translated?
There are some translations available, I believe. It's a little harder to find them, I think. One of the websites that we mentioned, Waihona Aina, I think they have some of that available, but usually you'll have to pay for that. Yeah. So just a disclaimer there. Otherwise, I would check on Awapunohiki website. They have some some typescriptions of it. So just like with a lot of the Newspaper Hawaii or newspaper.org, someone has gone through and typed them up. Yeah. So that's one way to find them. Another way to kind of get around that is from the first workshop that we talked about, the Lloyd Soren's Index to Place Names. That stuff is taken all from the Mahele documents. And now mahalo to Kala and Kanoi for the office hours we had last Friday. When I was talking with them, found out that there were some issues with the website for the Lloyd Soren's index of place names. Another way you can access that is if you go to Ulukal and click on the Aina thing or the place name search, and they have the same database, but that website seems to be working a lot smoother. And so on there, you can at least get more typescriptions of a lot of these documents, but which will only help in like trying to read it. Yeah. So translations, there aren't a lot of translations that I know of, and that's where this work can get kind of tedious. Yeah. So you realize on you being able to understand the language, but not just the language, but also a lot of the legal jargon that you'll find within these documents as pertains to Aina or even the land laws, if you want to call it that, at the time of Mahele. Mahalo for the question.
We have a question from over in Molokai. When do names go from being first names to last names, if you know? For example, when does a famous name like Kiave go from a first name to a last name?
That's a good question. And Kalamai, it doesn't seem like one that can be answered within the context of Mahele stuff. That I think there's more variation. That's more of like a genealogy kind of question there. Yeah. So I don't have a clear answer for that because it seems like that can occur at different generations for different families. For instance, with my last name, Kili Ipakawa, it looked like I had Kupuna before who went by the name Kili Ipakawa. There was a Kili Ipakawa Kupa, but those weren't really used as last names until seems more like my my great grandfather, who is the first one with the name Kepo. He seems to be the first one to have taken that on as a last name. And so that was around, he was born in 1893, what a year. So that's when that name for my Ohana kind of went from being a so-called first name to a last name. That really can vary. It depends on the name and the family. I can go back. I've seen it happen even farther back to even around times of Kamehameha or like 1820s, 1830s even. So yeah, no definitive answer on that one, Kalamai.
Mahalo. Another question we have is kind of a review question. Where do we search place names to find LCAs?
Good question. This is kind of a chicken and the egg kind of question here. So both inform each other, yeah. What I would recommend is if you start by doing your ethno-historical research, so you look through sources like we talked about in the first workshop, you go through books like Ruling Chiefs and do your general searches for like the Moku, for the Ahupua'a. In reading these different mo'olelo, you might find place names that way. A quicker way will be to look for different maps, as we did in the last workshop, yeah. And so sometimes you'll find place names on those maps themselves. So that can help to build up your database of place names. In general, my experience has been I've found more place names in the Mahele documents than I found Mahele documents by looking for place names. These documents are loaded with Ili names, with Mo'oaina names, with the names of Lo'ikalo and whatnot. So they're super vai. But as far as getting over there, that's where I would start. And again, if you're really not sure, then start super broad when you're doing your initial search in the LCA index, the alphabetical by land section. And if you know what moku you're looking in, then start with the moku. If you know the ahupua'a too, then start looking in the ahupua'a. And when I started my Waiawa research, for instance, I didn't know I was going to narrow a lot of stuff down to a few specific ili. So I literally collected all of the Mahele documents for every single claimant in Waiawa. And I started looking through those to try and narrow down what area am I going to look at. So again, it's a little tedious, but doing all of these things together can help you. I highly recommend doing the background research first. So look through books, look through new paper and whatnot, or even before you do that, start with maps. If you're looking at place-based research, start with maps, see what place names you find. If you can find areas that maybe might not be Mo'oaina on a map, but there's a pu'u noted or a local noted within that area, then search that name in other books, and that might key you into other place names like Ili or Mo'oaina, and then you can use all of those to search the LCAs as well. So I hope that's helpful.
Mahalo. So when doing Mahele research, we know that we come across many, many different documents. Do you have a recommendation for best practices for organizing documents during Mahele research?
I definitely do. Hold on really quick, and I will share a little bit of that with you. So here's a little sneak peek into the mess that is my mind. So just a moment, open up certain files. Here, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share screen. So thank you for that question. Can everybody see this? Okay, so this is how I have my Waiava, my headed documents organized, yeah. So as you see here, I have it basically by Ili. And so how you even start with this is you start with that template I mentioned, that spreadsheet for logging it, right? Everything starts with the index. As you're collecting that information, you're going to see these different place names, yeah? Like the different Ili names. So then taking those Ili names, that's how I start organizing the information here, yeah? So there is where I have Kuhia Waho. After I've collected all of these data, then I identified different claimants in Kuhia Waho. So note here, when in the presentations, when we were looking at the page for alphabetical by land, there were only 3 claimants listed for Kuhia Waho, right? But you notice that I have 4 here. I found that 4th one because of doing that thorough process and going back by alphabetical by awardee. But yeah, so anyways, start by Ahupua'a. If you have the different Ili, make those different folders. Within those Ili, I arrange them by claimant or by awardee. Yeah. So then when I click on Kako'o, here are all the different files that I've downloaded, and see why it becomes important to be vigilant in naming your files concisely and clearly. So here I can see that I have got 2 different native register documents for Kako'o tied to the different LCA numbers. Here is the LCA for Kako'o, a foreign testimony, or a patent survey, boundary survey notes. And then some of the other files I have in here that I just made for my own notes, where I've taken those same documents, made copies, and drew on them to kind of make sense of them for my own work. But yeah, so basically, like I said, first, if you're collecting for the entire Ahupua'a, then within that, have folders for different Ili. Whenever you're able to identify them, you should be able to identify them by looking at the LCA index for the indices. And once you have the Ili figured out, in your folder for the Ili, arranged by claimant, for your claimants, that's where you'll save all your documents. Yeah, hope that's helpful. Any other questions?
Mahalo Kipo'o. I think we're gonna turn it back over to La'akea.
Okay. All right. Mahalo everybody for letting me blab at all of you, and mahalo again also to our other speaker Kipo'o. Thank you for letting me share space with you. Glad to co-present with you. What's being done now? Mahalo everyone.
Mahalo. I think really quick last question from Peleke is every royal patent recorded and compiled at archives?
To my knowledge, yes, I would say so. And if you don't see anything in the archives, every transfer of land is supposed to be recorded at the Bureau of Conveyances. That's a whole other beast as far as getting into, yeah, but to my knowledge, all the royal patents should be there. I believe they still have the physical copies, but they have it all available on microfilm now, which probably means that either they're, because of the sensitive nature of the documents as far as what it means for, getting Kanaka back on Aina, or maybe the documents themselves might be old and maybe brittle, so a little bit more, it might be danger to the documents and handling them physically. That's why they'd be on the, the microfilm at the archives. But yes, to my knowledge, it's the most thorough area where it's recorded. Otherwise, when possible, I check the Bureau of Conveyances. It's in the Kalani Moku building. And then there's a good amount of them that's on Kipuka right now too. So it's an amazing resource. I don't think I've ever noticed it. There were patents being available online before until Kipuka made them available. So all of it. Thank you.
Nice. Mahalo, Ray. So I guess before we wrap up here, before we take our closing surveys and whatnot, I just wanted to again mahalo ke po'o, and then also encourage all of you folks to take advantage of our office hours with him, right? So that's one day that you guys all get to pick at his brain, and it could be from anything within this process, right? If you guys don't know where to start, if you don't even know where to find your land claimants, right, then you can have a session with him. He can help you find those names. He can help you bring up those downloadable PDFs for you guys to continue research, and then even maybe share some of his secrets with you folks on how to organize. So please, and again, if you don't know how to do that, just email one of us, and we can sign up for you and